been an incredibly long time, hasn't it? I apologize. Do you know why it's been an incredibly long time? Because I didn't have one of these. The computer that I'm using failed to give me a adequate source of microphone ability. The internal mic is crap, as you could tell from my latest videos, and the headphone jack, not the headphone jack, pardon, the microphone jack on my MacBook isn't powered. If you don't know what that means, that's probably because you are like everyone else in the world and have never had to put a powered mic into your laptop or your PC. But with MacBook you do. I needed to find a UBS headset, a UBS microphone, and this was one of two choices. It was a little bit of the sleeker model, same price, you see. So I chose that one. Anyways, long story short, you're going to have to deal with me again now, on a regular basis, I hope. I want to talk to you about an issue that has been raised here on the YouTube community. I was powerless to chime in on the issue because of, the situation that I've described. And I've had a little coffee. It's always the case. I've always had a little to drink or a little coffee to drink. I should just stop with the beverages. Water sucks. It really, really sucks. You can even hear me mumbling, can't you? Good. An issue. Now that oh no, I'm doing pretty good on time. Good. Here's the issue. I want to talk about should, ought. Yeah, those two words. Because none of you really know what you're talking about. I've become bold in my time away from YouTube. I have become so confident in what I believe that actually I've lost a lot of motivation to make many YouTube videos. But now that I have a proper source of microphone input power, I see my drive to produce movies has returned. So perhaps it was not that I disliked you people, but rather that I was frustrated with my setup, and now I have fixed the problem. But anyways, should and ought. My good friend, Veritas48, the guy with the hat, was talking about this and is making arguments that make me wonder if he knows what he's talking about. I'm assuming he doesn't, though I dearly appreciate the gentleman. Here it is, guys. Every time you hear someone say the word should or ought, they are implying a criterion, okay? And so for, say, purposes of debate, you can then question the validity of that criterion, whether or not that is the most appropriate criterion to use for whatever they're trying to argue. In another sense, you can actually see if they know whatever the devil they're talking about by really judging by the way they cast their sentence, whether or not they know what exactly they are doing when they say should or ought. Should and ought takes the form of several different words, or we can take several different forms that has several different words that can complicate the issue and lead us to believe that one should and ought is different than another should and ought. And although classifications might be different, fundamentally any should or ought is the byproduct of a logical process, the same logical process in each situation. The situations are differentiated between each other because of different relationships a human being can have with his outside world. That doesn't make one should or ought more powerful than any of the others. It simply speaks to the different set of rules that are applied in a particular relationship a human being can have. Let me give you an idea about what exactly I mean. The relationship a person can have with the outside world is not limited to, but consists of the relationship one individual has with another one individual, the relationship one individual has with his government, the relationship one individual has with his tools, the relationship one individual has with the Almighty. Do you see? Even if you don't buy into the Almighty, you can buy into the previous three. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. In that, we say that the first example, the first situation where you consider the relationship between an individual and another individual, we can assess logically proper conduct in those relationships based on knowing the actual nature of the thing the individual is interacting with. That is to say, that once we have a good foundation or a good understanding of what a human being is, we can more accurately describe the appropriate behavior that should transpire between an individual and an individual. This becomes a should and ought kind of endeavor. You should treat people in such a way. You should behave with people in such a way. Now, this doesn't come about because of a holy book. Yet, it remains objective. Because what we see is a relationship with a thing that we can know. An individual, as it can be known. Human being in its fundamental and its essential sense can be known. And we can agree that what should be done with one person, so long as we do it correctly, should be done with another person, because they're both people. This is called morality, of course. Morality catches a lot of flack and a lot of misunderstanding. Ultimately because a lot of people who are objective moralists like to believe that objective morality comes by virtue of a holy book. And that's not the case. Objective morality comes by way of knowing the actual essential nature of an individual in that case, and put it into terms of what kinds of contracts could be forged, or what sort of dealings, what sort of affairs would be appropriate between those two situations. Let me, in the time that I have left, let me contrast this to, say, a different relationship man can have, and I think you'll get the idea as to why knowing the nature of an individual ultimately holds the answer to objective morality. If we look at not a moral question of should and ought, and I'm hallucinating, sorry, there's a bug, but we look at a pragmatic sense of should and ought. That is to say, a pragmatic sense of should and ought analyzes the relationship an individual has with his tools. The reason we have to name these two different things, and yet they use both the word should and ought, is because the relationship is fundamentally different, because the elements within that relationship are different. A human being is fundamentally different from a tool. You don't have to compensate a tool. A hammer, if it doesn't ask for compensation, it won't become depressed. If it's rejected, it won't be, whatever. Though at the same time, if you treat a human being like a tool, it would essentially be slavery. It's inappropriate not because the Bible says so. It's inappropriate because it goes against, or it ignores, certain facets of the individual's nature. And if we want to be logical, we have to take into account what we're dealing with to the fullest extent that it actually exists. If we want to work with something, and we can only work with it by cutting out certain sections of its total, complete being, we're being illogical. And in the situation where we are being illogical between two individuals, in interactions and affairs that conspire between two individuals, we call that immorality, because it can be formulated in terms of shoulds and should nots. The same can be done in terms of pragmatism. We don't say it's immoral to treat your tools poorly. We say it's impractical. But in this situation as well, impracticality, as immorality, is objective because of the nature of the thing we're dealing with. Not because the user's manual said that you should not, say, try to bang the hammer with the opposite end, nor should we believe that morality is as it is because the Bible or some other book said so. It is merely taking into account the full nature of what you're dealing with. And from that, you can objectively arrive at moral action, pragmatic action, proper action within politics. I don't have time to go into that. And then proper action in your relationship with God. yeah, that's all I have time for. Sorry. Bye-bye now. Yeah, I'll go off your questions and make another video, I'm sure. I hope you find it interesting. Ciao, guys. I got a microphone.